Sinister secrets revealed. 12. Terrifying days at the cursed beach of unexplained disappearances. The coastal town of Sandy Cove glistened under the unforgiving sun, but beneath its beauty lay a horrific truth. Sinister whispers echoed in the streets, stories of families swallowed by the turbulent waves. They just vanished, the locals murmured over coffee, their voices barely above a whisper, eyes darting toward the sea. A shipwreck from long ago haunted these shores, and storms carried more than just rain. They carried ghosts. Sarah had moved her 2 children, Lily and Sam, here seeking solace, a fresh start, far away from the shadows of their past. The beach promised hope, bright and endless. Day after day they built castles in the sand, each hour a little brighter, until something shifted. The whispers became screams trapped in her throat. It began innocently. "Look what we found, Mom!" Lily shrieked one evening, holding up a locket, its silver surface catching the dying sunlight. The engraved picture was disturbingly familiar. Sarah's heart raced. The tiny faces within were a mirror of her own family, twisted in an uncanny resemblance. Chills crawled down her spine. "Let it go, Lily," she urged, a trembling command that silenced her daughter. But every day spent at the beach seeped anxiety into their bones. Sam began staring into the frothy surf, as if the depths held secrets written just for him. "I see them, Mom," he exclaimed one day, his eyes wide, fear colliding with wonder. "They're in the water." The night grew thick with dread as a storm gathered overhead. Thunder rumbled ominously, breaking the stillness. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, features hidden by the rain. Sarah felt the air tighten around her. Were those eyes watching? Panic nipped at her heels. She locked the doors, but the unease crawled inside her mind. The whispers of the townsfolk pressed harder against her sanity, thickening the air with despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next day, a thick fog rolled in. Straining against the clutches of panic, Sarah decided to uncover the town's secrets. Families gone, disappearances cloaked in tragedy. She confronted Sheriff Collins, whose steely gaze cut through her bravado. "We handle it," he said flatly, shrugging her off. But the way he shifted, like a puppet tied to strings, made her heart sink deeper. Truth lurked, suffocating and toxic, beneath the veneer of civility. With each return to the shifting sands, the dark secrets clawed closer, tangible and real. The silhouettes just beneath the waves hungered for more than their quiet lives. The storm thundered louder, an ominous pressure building, rising to swallow them whole. Sarah fought against the tide pulling at her children. "Lily? Sam!" she screamed, dread tightening her throat as they wandered too close to the water's edge. Just as she took a cautious step toward them, a massive wave crashed down, swallowing the vision of her children in icy embrace. The chill of realization sank deeper. Could she really save them from the bottomless depths where the vanished lingered, waiting to reclaim what was taken from them? The surf recoiled, a malevolent voice whispering promises made of salt and sorrow. Time dwindled, and terror loomed. Would they be next? The air crackled with an electricity that had nothing to do with the storm. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the howling wind that slashed through the town. "Lily! Sam!" Her voice was raw, torn from her throat. The desperate cry felt swallowed by the ocean as she frantically searched the foam-choked shoreline. The children had been snatched, pulled into the abyss by something unseen. She staggered back, ready to plunge into the surf and search. But the waves conspired against her, pulling her closer, dragging her to where the water churned and darkened with every crash. "This can't be happening," she whispered, panic clawing at her chest. The beach morphed into a battleground between hope and despair. There, among the writhing shadows, flickered a figure, the outline of a child, her stomach twisted with recognition. "Sam!" she screamed, lunging forward. The shape danced on the cusp of visibility, a mirage that flirted with the edges of her sanity. But when she reached the spot, the little boy was gone. Seaweed and flotsam greeted her grasp. "Mom, help!" The voice was distant, echoing from deep within the roiling tide. Sarah's blood ran cold. It was Lily's voice. Each pulse of sound tore at her, frantic and filled with terror. "Mom!" Gritting her teeth, Sarah fought the pull of the ocean, heart heavy with dread as she fought against her own pounding fear. She stumbled back, eyes scanning the tumultuous water, searching for anything, a sign, a glimpse of her children. With the wind whipping her hair, she ran along the shore, every heartbeat resonating with the screams trapped in her throat. Suddenly the storm reached a crescendo. The clouds twisted and rolled above, darkening the sky. Lightning illuminated the water, revealing the jagged rocks beneath the surface, jagged teeth waiting to consume the unwary. And then, Sarah saw them. Shapes moving beneath the surface, something writhing, something alive. Desperation surged anew. There was only one thing she could do. "I'll save you," she cried, her voice defiant against the raging storm. She tore off her shoes and plunged into the freezing water, teeth chattering instantly. Dark shapes swirled around her, pulling her deeper, tugging at her limbs as she fought against the tide. "Lily, Sam!" The frigid grip of the ocean touched her bones. She swam with every ounce of will, her limbs like lead. As she broke the surface, she saw them. Two faces, not hers, not of her children, but twisted reflections of innocence, pale and distorted, beckoning her from the depths. "Join us, Sarah." Their voices sang through the tumult, each syllable wrapping around her like seaweed, constricting tighter. "No!" She turned, kicking wildly, propelled by terror, as she clawed her way back toward the shore. The ghostly figures laughed, a sound like glass shattering in the air around her. "You can't escape the tide," they taunted, dragging her back into their cold embrace. With a final heave, Sarah broke free, gasping for air, lungs burning as she reached shallow waters. Wading to the shore, she collapsed onto the sand, heart racing, eyes wide with horror. The storm raged on, thrashing against the beach, but the faces beneath the waves lingered in her mind. Lost souls bound to reclaim what was once theirs. As the rain poured and thunder cracked, Sarah understood. The curse of Sandy Cove was alive, and it wasn't finished with her family. She glanced at the dark surf, shivering as something unseen surged just below the surface. "What do you want?" she murmured, terror saturating her words. But the answer lay in the depths, the hearts of the lost. She could feel it in her bones. The children of Sandy Cove wouldn't remain silent forever. Then a chill raced down her spine, remembering the locket Lily had found. What if it was more than just a trinket? What if it held the key to uncovering the truth? Staring out at the storm-cloaked ocean, a dreadful realization sank in. She had to go back to where it all started. But what awaited her when she did? Would she return alone, or would the whispers claim her too? The sea roared. A beast awakened and ravenous. Sarah blinked against the stinging rain, her drenched clothes clinging to her skin like the weight of despair settling in her chest. Every shadow that flickered at the edge of her vision sent her heart racing, a reminder of the faces that lurked beneath the waves. She could feel it, an unrelenting pull towards the locket, the dread clots in her throat squeezing her breath. "I have to find it," she whispered to herself, masking the fear threatening to drown her. The storm poured rage upon the shore, but Sarah turned away from the chaos of the water, heading toward the remnants of the old shack where Lily had first found the locket. Each step felt heavier than the last as she trudged through the soaked sand, her mind whirling with memories. The shack loomed, battered by time and nature, its structure appearing almost threatening as it swayed in the storm's fury. Inside, darkness swallowed her whole. She peered into the musty gloom, clenching her fists as she forced herself forward. Bits of wood creaked underfoot, creating symphonies of unease. The smell of damp earth and mildew filled her nostrils, and she tried to shake the images of what could have happened here. The stories of lost children, whispers of untold horror that danced in her mind like phantoms. As she groped through the debris, she spotted the locket on the floor, a glint of silver catching a flash of lightning. Relief flooded through her, but it was quickly shadowed by a sense of impending dread. What if it was a beacon, drawing her closer to something worse? She snatched it up and opened it. Inside were small, faded pictures of the children who had vanished over the years, faces she didn't recognize yet felt painfully familiar. The hair on her arms would not lay flat. An eerie chill crept through the air. And then she felt it, the cold fingers of recognition clutching at her heart. It was a collection of lost souls, bound in metal, pleading silently for something. The locket seemed to thrum in her hand, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. "Is this your doing?" she murmured, half pleading, half accusing. The air thickened with the weight of the past as the wind moaned through the cracks in the shack, echoing the cries of the vanished kids. The screams from the ocean were but whispers compared to the echoes in this room. Suddenly the ground trembled. Was it the storm, or something deeper? The walls seemed to close in on her, and a dark shape flickered in the corner of her eye. Her pulse quickened as she turned, facing an unexpected mist that rolled in like smoke, dancing around her ankles. It coiled, whispering, begging, "Help us! Find us!" The voices slithered through her, chilling her to the bone. She stumbled backward, heart hammering against her ribcage. With horrified realization, she recognized the voices. They were the same, calling her, pleading from the depths. "Get away!" she shouted, shaking her head furiously as if she could banish the phantoms from her mind. But the mist advanced, whispering her children's names, their cries mingling with the cacophony of thunder. Panic surged anew. She had to leave. She turned to escape, but the door slammed shut with a deafening thud. The shadows thickened, enclosing her in a fog of whispers. "Mom, we're here, help us." A vision exploded in her mind. Lily and Sam clinging to the rocks, the water curling around their feet. She could see their faces, but in her heart, she felt the pull of something darker, something horrifying. The curse was dragging them downward, deeper into a watery grave. Regaining some composure, Sarah banged on the door, desperate, the locket still in her grasp. Would it guide her to them, or doom them all? Then from outside a new sound cut through the storm, the faint laughter of children, sweet and innocent yet impossibly wrong, echoing across the shoreline. It beckoned her, an insistent urge that clawed at her senses. Instinct screamed at her to run, but the locket felt like a live wire in her hand, pulling her toward the chaos. What had she unleashed? Would the whispers lead her to salvation or condemnation? With dread coiling around her heart, she knew the time had come to step into the darkness. But what awaited her when she did? Would she find her children, or would she become lost among the shadows as well? The room darkened further, engulfing her in a suffocating haze. With the weight of the locket burning against her palm, Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the whispers. As she fumbled in the dark, every creak of the wood amplified her dread. Rain beat angrily against the roof, but the laughter outside twisted her stomach into knots. It felt wrong, too lighthearted for the grisly questions pressing against her mind. She pressed her back against the rough wall, heart hammering as memories clawed at her. Every story she had heard, every name she'd tried to forget floated through her consciousness. She turned her focus to the locket. What secrets did you hold? It pulsed beneath her fingers, nearly humming with energy. Fumbling, Sarah opened it again, seeking answers in the fading images. But all she found was a darkness that thrummed like a live wire, and the air grew heavy, almost liquid around her. "Mom, come find us." What had they done? What price had they paid? An image burned in the corners of her mind, a flash of water glimmering but treacherous, swirling with shadows that beckoned with enchanting grace before swallowing everything whole. The whispered names wrapped around her like icy tendrils. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting for clarity. Then, a light splintered the gloom, a pinprick of illumination that beckoned her to the far end of the shack. It pulsed with an eerie glow, like the heartbeat of something unimaginable. The door rattled violently as if something on the other side was trying to break in. The children's laughter grew more fervent, echoing around her, ricocheting off the decaying walls. "Come play with us," it sang, sweet but laced with a sinister edge. "Stop!" Sarah screamed, voice thin and desperate. The glow, she had to reach it. What if it was a way out? Gathering all her courage, she bolted toward the light but skidded to a halt as the mist thickened, transforming the air into a dense fog that curled like fingers, brushing against her skin. Every breath felt like inhaling ice. Was this how it felt to be lost forever? To be consumed? She pictured Lily and Sam, their innocent faces ghostly pale, the ocean's grip tightening around them. The shadows coalesced, deeper darkness melding with the mist. Shapes formed and her heart raced as horrified recognition set in. They weren't just lost children, but figures tangled within each other, their eyes hollow yet pleading, the remnants of those who had vanished before. At the center stood a little girl, her face obscured by damp hair. "Please," she whimpered, reaching out. "Help us." Sarah felt a rush of conflicting emotions. What if she could help them? What if the locket was the key? But just as quickly, the laughter rose again, taunting and cruel, echoing in the corners of her mind. Multiple voices overlapped, blending into a cacophony that made her head spin. "Join us forevermore." "No!" she cried, backing away, the locket swinging from her neck like an anchor. "I won't let you take me." The floor lurched, the shack shook, frames of the past flickered in the shadows. Images of the ocean snatching children. Laughter silenced, faces twisting in terror. The very air turned sharp, like shards of glass gliding through her lungs. Suddenly, a crack, a loud pop split the tension. The faint light flickered and then exploded, plunging her into darkness once more, but with surrounding whispers rising, now blended with howls of rage. Then everything went quiet. An unnatural stillness flooded the space, leaving her with nothing but her pounding heart. What had transpired? "Mom, help us." The voices lingered, growing faint and weak, but the dread didn't leave her. Shivering, Sarah glanced back at the door. Could she escape, or would she plunge deeper into this nightmare? She grasped the locket, feeling its strange warmth pulse again. With a determination fueled by her love for her children, she hesitated only for a moment before turning toward the shadows. "I'm coming." But as she took a step forward, the shack trembled violently, the walls groaning. Would this path lead her to her children, or would she too become a prisoner of the darkness? Outside, the laughter rose again, clearer and more inviting. "You're almost here," it sang, but a growing suspicion clenched her gut. Perhaps the children didn't want to be found. What horror awaited at the end of this unholy path? The silence shattered like glass, replaced by the high-pitched ringing in Sarah's ears. Heart racing, she stumbled forward, compelled by both fear and the desperate hope that lay in the flickering shadows before her. She could still hear it, the laughter, twisted, mocking, and her mind screamed for reprieve. As she pressed deeper into the gloom, the light pulsed like a dark star, revealing fleeting glimpses of familiar shapes. Memories danced along the edges of her vision. Lily's bright smile twisted into a silent scream, Sam's small hands reaching, clawing at the emptiness around him. Each vision sliced through her resolve, setting her nerves on fire. "Mom," the word echoed, a haunting invocation that beckoned her ever closer to the light. But with every step, the laughter spun tighter into dissonance, turning sweet memories bitter. Shadows stretched long, fingers curling around her ankles, as if the darkness itself was trying to pull her back. She stumbled again, almost losing her footing, but the glow remained steadfast ahead. An icy draft whispered secrets past her ear, sending chills skittering down her spine. "You shouldn't have come." It was a voice layered with malice and sorrow, so familiar, yet terrifyingly alien. It tousled her hair like a lover's touch, prompting her to glance back over her shoulder. Nothing, just the empty expanse of shadow. Fear gnawed at her as the darkness swirled around her like smoke, thickening with every tortured whisper. She squeezed the locket tighter, its warmth contradicting the chill that permeated her bones. "I won't let you take them," she shouted out, a spark of defiance igniting inside her. With a sudden jolt, the light flared brighter, illuminating figures entwined in its glow, exquisite but distorted, childlike but fearful. They flickered like dying fireflies, and Sarah's heart sank. They were not mere shadows anymore. They held form, and within their faces lay recognizable features twisted in despair. As their collective gaze turned toward her, their eyes hollow and pleading, blood drained from Sarah's face. "Help us." It was the same refrain, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. "Stop," she screamed, collapsing to her knees. "I can't." The growing realization washed over her like a tidal wave. She wasn't just facing the remnants of lost children, she was on the brink of losing herself to this nightmare. The locket's glow flickered, then steadied, casting a weak halo of hope. But the laughter, oh, that laughter. It swirled around her, an invisible tide eroding her will. "Join us. Forever." It sang in a childlike chorus, a dulcet promise wrapped in threat. Ignoring the chill of despair, she focused on the locket again. Something deep within its engraving stirred. The frayed edges of reality spun wildly as a surge of understanding grasped her. The children were not lost. They were trapped. But how could she help them? The shadows shifted, condensing into a tight mass, and Sarah felt her heart jump. The girl she had seen before emerged from the fog, strands of hair covering her face. "You can save us," she whispered, her voice dissolving into 1,000 more. "But the cost—" "Stop!" Sarah shouted again, scrambling backward. It weighed heavy on her heart, that thought. What price? So many unknowns loomed in the air, and with every pitter-patter of the rain outside, her hope eased into trepidation. As the walls groaned, vibrating ominously, Sarah clenched her teeth. The thrum of the locket intensified, resonating with her heartbeat, urging her forward. "I will save you," she cried, grappling with the edges of fear. But before she could move, a deep crack echoed through the shack, reverberating like thunder, and the ground shuddered. Splinters rained down from the ceiling, and an unseen force pressed down on her chest, pinning her in place. Everything around her twisted and shifted, an inky maelstrom opening beneath her feet. The shadows unfurled and thereby dragged her toward the locket's eerie brilliance. In that moment of despair, the child's voice pierced through, sharp and clear. "You must make a choice." And then, before she could respond, a final, deafening crack echoed. The shack was coming apart. What choice could she possibly make? Did she have the strength to face the darkness and save them? The world around her blurred into chaos, and in the eye of the storm, she felt the walls of reality beginning to collapse. What would she sacrifice? Would she lose herself in the shadows, or would she discover the terrible truth hidden within? The ground trembled beneath her, splitting wide with an ominous growl, as if the very earth were awakening from a long slumber. Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a caged animal. Desperation clawed at her throat. She was on the verge of being swallowed whole by this madness, yet she sensed a faint pulse of power. The locket. Could it guide her? "Make the choice," the voice implored again, now echoing from every direction. Behind the veil of shadows, the trapped souls twisted in agony, their faces a haunting collage of anguish. "Please, please." The words oozed between trembling lips, and in the tempest of growing fear, the children's pleas became a cacophony that seized her mind. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to her feet, each step feeling heavier than the last. "I won't abandon you." The words sounded brave, but also hollow. The walls roared as the darkness surged, echoing her braveness with laughter, as if mocking her futile resolve. And then, the locket glowed, a fierce golden light cutting through the oppressive gloom. Sarah's breath hitched, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. She could see the faces of the children now, clearer than before, bathed in the hope from her locket. They weren't mere shadows. They had stories, lives intertwined with hers. "Help us." Their chorus wove through the very fabric of her being. If she could just reach them, if she could grasp hold of what was left of their essence, Maybe she could tear them from this nightmarish prison. But at what cost? She hesitated, the weight of choice burdening her. The girl pushed through the thrumming shadows closer, her small frame trembling with urgency. "Be quick!" But as her words spun through the air, the shadows engulfed her. The flickering light revealing terror etched deep in her young features. Sarah's heart sank. "No, don't let them take you!" As she raced forward, the ground bucked and groaned, the shack's wood splintering under the relentless pressure of unseen forces. Fear sunk its teeth deeper into her heart. The locket throbbed violently. "It's you or them. Choose." No, she couldn't comprehend a choice that demanded such sacrifice. The idea churned in her stomach. The voices of the children twisted around her, weaving a spell of despair. "You can save us if you become one of us." They blinked in and out, disintegrating, drawing the essence of fear closer. "Please, just tell me how," she shouted, feeling the air thin around her. The girl broke through the shadows again, accentuated by that pulsing light. "You have to remember, the connection." Her voice fell to an echo, drifting away from Sarah like the leaves carried off by the wind. A vision flashed before her, her past, vibrant yet tainted with loss. Lily's laughter echoed in a sunlit garden, but darker hues seeped in. A humming blackness wrapped around memory like tendrils, squeezing, squeezing. Suddenly the answer dawned: love, sacrifice. They were all tied together in the fabric of existence. But how far would she go? As the shack's walls creaked and twisted, a choice loomed with horrifying clarity. Would she abandon her own salvation and risk becoming another lost soul in this endless night? Her resolve rippled with intensity, the cracks in the floor deepening with each fleeting thought. Gritting her teeth, Sarah whispered, "I'll save you." With those words, the locket erupted into blinding light just as the shadows descended, wrapping around her like a serpent ready to strike. When she opened her eyes, the world flipped upside down. She stood in a fractured dreamscape where light and dark clashed violently. "Welcome," a voice slithered through the chaos, cold and deep, slicing through the air like ice. She turned, seeing a figure cloaked in shadows. Who was it? She couldn't breathe. That cost will be heavy. The shadows twisted, pulsing violently, and a decision was demanded. What did the figure know? What price awaited in the chaos? With dread clocking her heartbeat, she stepped closer to the darkness, desperate to know the truth that could end it all, or shatter everything she had left. Sarah's breath came in shuddering gasps, the icy grip of dread tightening around her throat. The figure before her remained shrouded in darkness, a spectral silhouette vibrating with malevolence. Its voice slithered through the air, dripping with a sinister sweetness. "You did not heed the warnings, did you? Your heart craves answers, yet you stand on the edge of the abyss." Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, but her feet remained rooted in place. There was no turning back now. The haze of terror clawed at her mind, whispering doubts, stirring memories of the children, their eyes wide and pleading. Who are you?" she stammered, heart racing. Her own voice felt foreign, drowned under the weight of an oppressive silence that surged around her like a tide. The figure tilted its head slightly as if savoring her fear. "I am the keeper of the lost, a guardian of their fates. You seek the truth, but truths can fracture souls." The shadows behind the figure pulsed, thickening like a storm about to unleash thunder. "But you, dear child, noble and foolish, are not destined for merely finding truth. No, it shall consume you, and to be absolved you must barter your very essence." Essence. The word hung like a blade poised to strike. Sarah's eyes darted around the nightmare landscape, flickering between chaos and glimpses of the children, their faces twisted in an eternal plea. They were counting on her. "Tell me what I need to do," she cried, desperation lacing her voice. "I can't let them suffer." The figure laughed, the sound icy and hollow. "Ah, the cry of a savior. But are you a healer, or merely another lost soul yearning for salvation?" Before she could question further, Shadows erupted around her, writhing like serpents. They lunged, and suddenly, she was blinded by tendrils of darkness racing toward her. The heat of panic surged through her veins, each heartbeat pounding against her chest. She raised the locket before her, its golden light pulsing as if sensing the incoming danger. "Stay back!" She felt the warmth of the locket grow, pushing back the shadows like a shield. The laughter shrieked in protest, morphing into anguished cries that echoed against the walls of her mind. The shadows recoiled, but they weren't retreating. They were circling, gauging her resolve. "Time is slipping, child," the figure hissed, its voice layered with malice. "They can only be freed if you choose to become one of them, or succumb fully to the dark. Step away from the light and embrace the chaos within." With her heart thundering, Sarah felt the weight of their faces in her memory, each laughter, each tear, and that glimmering hope in their eyes. "I won't become what you want. I'll find a way to save them without losing myself." Then face the price. The word hung, suffocating and pregnant with dread. Sarah clenched her fists, feeling shards of determination flaring within. Resolve ignited inside her, fanning out like wildfire. "Let them go!" she shouted, the strength of her voice sending ripples through the chaotic air. The shadows lunged again, coiling around her tighter, but her light blazed brighter, a beacon against the encroaching despair. But she felt it, the ground quaking beneath her, the dark figure looming closer. A jolt of fear rippled through her, intertwining with the weight of her decision. What was the price? And would it cost her everything? She took a shaky breath, clutching the locket tightly. Just then, one of the children's faces appeared in the haze, her eyes locking onto Sarah's with an urgent plea. "Please, remember." The pleading voice pulled her, wrapping around her resolve. She braced herself, heart pounding. But what memory would she need to confront? And would advancing forward mean sealing her own fate? The shadows twisted tighter, and uncertainty gnawed at her gut. As the locket flickered with a life of its own, Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline surge, pushing her against the impending darkness. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" the figure demanded, its voice laced with anticipation. The ground cracked, a chasm threatening to swallow her whole. As the shadows beckoned her downward, she clenched the locket and stepped dangerously close to the edge of everything she knew. What was waiting for her below? Would the answer unravel her or bind her to this realm forever? The shadows lunged forward, surging around Sarah like a black tide intent on dragging her beneath its depths. The world seemed to stretch and twist, the air thick with dread as her vision flickered between reality and the formless void where the figures writhed. She could feel their icy breaths brushing against her skin, almost whispering her own fears back to her. "Please!" The children's faces danced in the maelstrom, their mouths forming silent, desperate cries. Each child's expression was a mirror of her anguish, an echo of the unrelenting weight on her heart. "Help us!" And just like that, Sarah's resolve flared, fiery and vivid. She focused on the locket now glowing fiercely in her grasp, a warm golden light that promised hope. Closing her eyes, she shouted, "I will not become darkness." In an instant the locket pulsed, sending out waves of light that sliced through the shadows, momentarily revealing the grotesque faces hidden within. Thousands of anguished wails erupted from the swirling mass. They were lost souls, trapped and twisted by despair, reaching out for freedom, and for her. The dark figure writhed, its face contorting with anger. "You think your light can save you? You are but a flicker in this endless night." Ignoring its taunts, Sarah plunged into the memories that haunted her, peeling back the layers of her soul. She remembered the laughter of the children, the warmth of their innocent joys, and the echoes of their pain when they vanished without a trace. Her heart swelled with longing, a deadly spell against the fears that clawed at her consciousness. "Only by understanding can you truly save," the figure hissed, its voice now vibrating with a dark chord echoing deep within her mind. "What would you give to reclaim them?" "What do you mean?" Sarah gasped, struggling against the pull of despair. The shadows threatened to drown her in their darkness, but the glowing warmth of the locket grew more intense, illuminating the corridor of memories locked away in her heart. "Consider the cost, child," it repeated deeper now, its voice a seduction laced with poison. "Your essence flows with the power of love and guilt. Embrace it, and you may twist fate in your favor." In that moment, a bright memory shot forth, bursting with colors. Her first day at the beach with the children, building castles in the sand. Laughter rang through the air, untainted by fear or sorrow. But then, the laughter was silenced, replaced by shadows creeping closer. How real the contrast felt, yet the darkness around her was all-consuming now. Eyes wide with realization, Sarah understood. The price wasn't just her own essence. It was every joy she had clung to, every shred of happiness traded for knowledge. Embracing the chaos within meant venturing into that abyss of sorrow, sacrificing those bright moments for the sake of the lost souls. "No," she cried, an eruption of defiance shaking the ground beneath her. "I won't sacrifice my love." There was a hush, a stillness in the chaos. The figure's twisted visage softened, if only for a breath. "Then gather your strength, dear child. Harness that love. For only when you reconcile the light and the dark can you truly set them free." With renewed determination, Sarah faced the encroaching darkness. The locket in her hand throbbed with power, pulsing in rhythm with her heart. She could feel her breath slowing, each inhale granting her focus. The memories were not a burden, but a reservoir from which to draw strength. As she steadied herself within the vortex of shadows, a wave crashed, the boundaries of fear and courage converging like the tides of an unseen ocean. Suddenly, she was no longer just Sarah. She became a conduit for every love, every tear, and every joyful laugh that had been stolen away. "Let them go," she howled, sending all her power forward, the locket blazing with golden light as she confronted the figure that had sought to devour her. But the darkness wouldn't yield that easily. It roared in fury, amplifying its shadowy form as a deadly whirlwind surged around her. Sarah felt a violent pull, threatening her very essence. Yet amidst the chaos, she clung to that singular thought. Would the light she had ignited be enough to consume the darkness, or would she dissolve into the depths of despair forever? The shadows were closing in, and Sarah braced for the storm to break. The air crackled with energy, an electric tension tightening around Sarah as she stood determined against the relentless tide of shadows. The howls rose around her, sharp and piercing, as if the very souls of the lost children were urging her on. The dark figure leered, twisting its form into grotesque shapes that threatened to pull her under again. "Foolish girl," it snarled. "You think your flickering light can pierce this veil of darkness? You are nothing but a lost memory, and soon you too will fade." Sarah felt fear clawing at her throat. Her pulse quickened, beating in frantic time with the pulse of the locket. She recalled those innocent smiles, those hands grasping at hers, pleading to be saved. Each laugh echoed like a distant bell, chiming through her, urging her to press on. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the shadows swirling like a storm around her. "I will not give up, I will not let go," she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. The locket blazed brighter, the light cutting through the oppressive dark as if the sun had pierced a terrible storm. Suddenly, there was a shift. The shadows recoiled from the brilliance pouring from her, and the anguished cries diminished to a whisper. Relief washed over her, but the figure was not finished. With a ghastly shriek, it waved its arm, dark tendrils lashing violently at the air around her. "Your resolve is admirable, but misplaced," it screamed, its voice a chilling echo. "What you are about to face is far worse than simple despair. You will confront your own darkness." The shadows surged back, forming a monstrous shape, a twisted mirror of Sarah. It wore her fears like a cloak, every self-doubt, every regret, every moment she felt weak. A chilling laughter echoed, mocking her as it approached. Sarah froze, heart racing, sweaty palms gripping the locket tightly. "Face yourself, child," the distorted doppelganger taunted, its voice a sinister blend of her own and the shadows. "You're not as brave as you pretend. What have you truly sacrificed to bring them back?" Sarah quaked under the weight of that question, memories flooding her mind unbidden. Moments spent in darkness, holding back tears, the relentless ache of kinship lost. The laughter of the children faded and turned into muffled cries of anguish that sapped her resolve. Doubt snaked its way into her heart, wrapping around her spirit like a vice. "Stop!" she cried, feeling as if she was drowning in shadows. "You're not me! You're a demon trying to twist my heart!" The figure shrieked in laughter, a sound that made her skin crawl. "You think you're any less of a monster? You know what you did, Sarah. You could have saved them, but you didn't." With each cruel word, the weight of guilt pressed down harder. In a flash, visions of the children trapped in shadows, lost and afraid, filled her mind. A sharp splinter of grief struck her heart. "You're wrong," she gasped, feeling those moments of cowardice weigh against her soul. "I've tried. I have." But deep down, she could hear the echoes of truth. She had hidden, avoided, and let herself be paralyzed by terror. That realization cut deeper than the screams. Then, from somewhere inside, she felt a flicker of hope, igniting fiercely within her core. "Enough," Sarah roared. "I will not be bound by my fears. I will not let you define who I am." The locket surged in her palm, and she summoned the warm golden light once more, pouring everything she had into it. Memories of laughter, joy, and love swirled within her, pushing back against the encroaching dark. As the light expanded, illuminating the abyss, she felt the darkness retreat, howling in despair as her essence began to push through the veil. "Let them go. You, my darkness, will not hold me captive any longer." But just as victory began to unfurl, a blinding flash erupted, and she found herself suspended in a void, every fiber of her being tingling with a familiar pull. An oppressive silence settled in like a thick fog. There were whispers, voices she recognized but couldn't place. Then a deep, hollow laugh filled the air, echoing around her like a sickening lullaby. "You may have won this round, but the game is far from over. The true sacrifices lie ahead." The darkness thickened, and Sarah gasped, fighting to keep her buoyancy. What lay ahead? She had faced her fears, but at what cost? The shadows began to swirl once more, and as her heart pounded in terror, she wondered who, or what, would emerge when the truth of the game was finally revealed. The storm raged on, but the air had shifted. Sarah felt a warmth radiate from the locket tightening against her chest, pulling her from the abyss as the swirling shadows began to stagnate, momentarily held at bay by her determination. "I'm not giving up," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. With each word, the locket pulsed in response, brightening as love and hope surged through her veins, igniting the darkness around her. In her heart she could feel the tether to her children, so strong it throbbed with every heartbeat. "You want a sacrifice?" she screamed. "Then let it be this." The dark figure before her shrank slightly as fear flitted across its twisted face. "What do you think you can offer, lost child?" "I'll embrace my pain, my fears, but I won't let them consume me. I'll use them." Her voice reverberated, sending ripples through the shadows. "If I must be bound to this realm to save them, then so be it." As she spoke, the shadows began to ripple, forming faces in the darkness, twisted remnants of lost childhoods, each one a promise of what could have been. A jarring rush of anguish coursed through her, and with it, the realization of the cost grew heavier. Would the remnants of her own innocence falter? Would she break under the weight of the lost? But now despair mixed with fierce resolve. "I love you, Lily. Sam, I'll bring you home." Sarah closed her eyes, gripped the locket tighter, and allowed that radiating warmth to fill her until she felt it bursting from her. The golden light enveloped her entire being, spilling forth like a tidal wave, consuming her fears, washing over the shadows crowding around her, refusing to let their hands pull her back into the dark. "Let them go!" The command felt like it shook the very fiber of the storm. The shadows recoiled in outrage, howling as if caught in the grip of a suffocating gale. The disembodied figures screamed, their desperate voices blurring together, merging into an echo of sorrow that drove into her heart. Each ray of light pierced through the murky depth around her, illuminating the faces hidden within the darkness, ghostly apparitions filled with longing and despair. "I see you," she cried, trembling as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I acknowledge you. But you are not bound to me. You must find your peace." Cracks began to erupt through the dark figure, the shadows splintering into 1,000 tiny fragments, retreating from the overwhelming beacon of light Sarah had become. The anguished faces twisted and dissolved, flickering like fading memories, and as the light pulsed she felt the final tie to those lost tighten before snapping free. In that instant everything went silent, suffocating the storm's chaos into a stillness that enveloped her. She gasped, the golden light now molten, coursing through her and fracturing the dark veil that consumed it. "We're breaking the curse," she realized, her heart racing with new hope. Then, from within the void, the voices of her children rang out, clear and harmonious. "Mom, we're here!" Her breath caught as shimmering forms broke the surface of the darkness, emerging toward her. Lily and Sam burst through the remnants of despair, eyes bright and radiant with warmth. Their smiles lit up the chaos, erasing the memories of fear, replacing it with a love so profound Sarah believed it could conquer anything. "Together!" Sarah shouted, heart soaring. She stretched out her arms toward them, willing the shimmering light of the locket to embrace them. The golden glow enveloped her children entirely, their forms glowing just as bright, pulling them closer as the shack cracked around them in one final furious roar. "Come back to us," she commanded, and as if the very fabric of the sea had responded, the three of them shone brighter than anything the darkness had ever known. Golden light erupted, swallowing the shadows whole, cascading over Sandy Cove and stretching endlessly into the sky, illuminating every dark corner. The oppressive air shattered, replaced by shimmering warmth, and the peaceful sound of the waves lapping at the shore as the curse dissolved like sugar in water. When the storm cleared, Sarah found herself standing alone on the shore, the sun breaking triumphantly through the clouds. Her heart raced with disbelief. Had it really happened? She turned, catching her breath as the warmth of the locket faded against her chest. The silence felt healing. "Mom, look what I found!" The voice rang out, familiar and sweet, and Sarah spun around, tears of joy pooling in her eyes. There were Lily and Sam splashing through the waves, grinning like the sun with a newfound sparkle in their eyes. "Mom, did you see? We found seashells, so many. Can we take them home?" They rushed toward her, laughter spilling from their lips like music to her heart. "Yes, my loves," she whispered, choked with emotion. Sarah knelt down, pulling them into a fierce embrace, still wondering if the weight of the horrors were truly gone. The sun warmed her face as a new day dawned. The curse lifted, but the scars of despair whispered beneath the surface, hidden away, waiting for the time they would fade. "Together we can face anything," she said, her voice firm. Forever, as their laughter echoed across the sandy beach, Sarah felt hope rise like the tide, experiencing a moment of pure clarity. The bonds of love transcended time, space, and even the darkest depths. And as they turned to build castles once more under the gentle sun, Sarah knew she would cherish every moment, embodying strength and beauty that could withstand even the stormiest of nights. This is the moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next heart-stopping story. Smash the like button, now to feed the algorithm. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. This is your chance to engage with the story and show your support.